Hi and welcome everyone. This is Eagle News. I am EJayGonzales in Washington. It's Saturday, July 22nd, 2023, here in the nation's capital. The week's recap begins with the United Nations warning that the Sustainable Development Goals are in danger given the pace of today's world. UN Chief Antonio Guterres says we are woefully off track. Rosel Feria tells us more.
Nearing the 2030 deadline of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal targets, UN Chief Antonio Guterres says that progress so far is weak and insufficient. Based on an SDGs progress report, the UN chief says a third of the goals have stalled or gone into reverse. This, with emissions still rising, gaping inequalities persisting, hunger reversing to 2005 levels, and gender equality hundreds of years away. Guterres says at the world's current pace, almost 600 million people will still be caught in extreme poverty by 2030. Guterres says the world is crying out for high-level political action. He says despite facing a bleak and challenged future, change is possible. He is calling on governments to take seriously the 2030 agenda and make the year 2023 count. Guterres says poverty, pollution, and gender inequality are trends that can be reversed, solved, and averted. Rosel Feria, Washington, D.C., Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Days before President Marcos Jr.'s second State of the Nation address in the Philippines, Ambassador Jose Manuel Romualdez shares his perspective on the administration's first year. He was joined by representatives of Filipino organizations and several U.S. Filipino associations here in D.C. Jeff Sanidad reports from the Philippine Embassy here in Washington.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s administration has reached its first year, and today, here at the Philippine Embassy in Washington, Ambassador Jose Manuel Romualdez provides a review of President Marcos Jr.'s policy directions and how these affect the Philippines-U.S. relations.
Ambassador Romualdez gives his perspective of President Marcos Jr.'s first year of administration's accomplishments, specifically in its foreign policy with respect to the Philippines' relationship with the U.S. Ambassador Romualdez says that in the past year, the exchanges between the two countries put their relationship in a very good place.
President Marcos had a very successful official working visit here in Washington, D.C. over 2 months ago, capping a year of exchanges among our most senior officials, including the visits of Vice President Kamala Harris, Secretary Blinken, and Secretary Austin to the Philippines, as well as the visits to the U.S. Secretary of our Secretary of Foreign Affairs Manalo and the OIC of Defense Galvez, and our economic managers, not to mention the exchanges of CODELs or congressional delegation visits among Philippine and American legislators. These exchanges are very important, not only for the agreements that were made or for the business that was generated, what we in government fondly call the deliverables, but they also send a strong signal to our two peoples and to the rest of the international community that the Philippines-U.S. alliance is strong and enduring, and that both countries are firmly determined to nurture that relationship.
Ambassador Romualdez mentions the $3 billion in public and private investment from the U.S. as a result of Marcos's visits here. He also mentions that the commitment of the two leaders to expand the educational exchange programs, to establish a Philippines-U.S. Friendship Fellowship designed to give students and young professionals educational opportunities here. Ambassador Romualdez ended his speech saying that it is time for the Philippines and the U.S. to have that special economic ground. This, he says, is because of the administration's commitment to economic prosperity of the Philippines and its partners in the U.S. be made much better than it ever was.
As the Marcos Jr. administration enters its second year, the Filipino here are looking forward to how the pace of engagement between the U.S. and the Philippines will go forward, be sustained, and affect more the two countries' relationship. Jeff Sanidad, Eagle News, Washington, D.C. We live in extraordinary times.
A top NASA climatologist says July this year will probably be the world's hottest month in hundreds, if not thousands of years. Philip Toledo reports on Down to Earth.
July 2023 has already seen daily records shattered. This, according to tools run by the European Union and the University of Maine, which combine ground and satellite data into models to generate preliminary estimates. Though slightly different from one another, the trend of extreme heat is unmistakable. Climatologist Gavin Schmidt says this will likely be reflected in the more robust monthly reports issued later by U.S. agencies. Schmidt says we are seeing unprecedented changes all over the world. The heat waves in the US, Europe, and China are demolishing records left, right, and center. He says the effects cannot be attributed solely to the El Niño weather pattern, which has only just begun. The climate expert says what is happening right now is increasing the chances that 2023 will be the hottest year on record. However, he says it is anticipated that 2024 will be an even warmer year because it will start off with the El Niño event building now. That will peak towards the end of this year. Schmidt's warning comes as the world has been bombarded by fires and dire health warnings, in addition to all the shattered temperature records this past week. Philip Toledo in Atlanta, Georgia, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
In related news, much of southern Nevada is still expecting to endure soaring temperatures. A warning from the National Weather Service, this is not typical desert heat because there is no significant overnight cool down. Anna Kui has more.
Excessive heat warning has been extended for much of southern Nevada, including Las Vegas, through Saturday. Temperature hit 116 degrees Fahrenheit or 46.7 degrees Celsius earlier this week, just below the highest record temperature of 118 degrees Fahrenheit or about 48 degrees Celsius. Although this heat wave isn't expected to end anytime soon, the string of consecutive days of having temperatures at or above 110 degrees or 43 degrees Celsius has been broken. Triple-digit temperatures are common between June and September in southern Nevada, but the National Weather Service warns that this is not typical desert heat since there's no significant overnight cool down. Temperatures remain warm at night in the low 90s. Despite the heat, visitors walk the Las Vegas Strip, checking out the latest attractions the city has to offer. The Sphere is the latest addition to the Las Vegas skyline, a next-generation entertainment venue with a fully programmable LED exterior, hailed as the largest LED screen in the world, according to their website. While visitors brave the heat, the Southern Nevada Health District urges everyone to continue to take precautions to avoid experiencing heat exhaustion or heat stroke. Health District officials report that there has been 7 heat-related deaths so far this year in Southern Nevada, and a total of 152 such deaths in 2022. In Las Vegas, Anna Kui, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Extraordinary stories from ThomasILikness today, from Robocabs in San Francisco to a mobile grocery store in Germany to makeshift homes in China. These and more on Correspondent at Large.
And now news and commentary from around the globe. Driverless cars. How do you feel about them? The folks in San Francisco, California, well, they're quite divided on the issue. These things have been plying the city streets since 2014. This is what a passenger sees while traveling inside the vehicle. It's kind of unreal. Initially, the cars had to have a safety driver on board, but the state dropped that requirement 4 years later. And now, city officials are worried about an increasing number of incidents involving these robocabs. So far, there have been no fatal accidents involving humans, but a dog wasn't so lucky last month when it ran in front of one. The robocabs have created other problems, though. Things like getting stuck in the middle of a street, blocking bus lanes, and running through crime scenes. There were 92 such incidents last year. Activists are taking matters into their own hands. They want to see an end to these driverless rides, and they've found a way to disable the cars without damaging them. They simply put a traffic cone on the hood of the car and it doesn't go anywhere. Just sits there with its hazard lights flashing. Have Robocabs made an appearance in your community? What do you do when the only grocery store in your community closes its doors for good? Well, several remote towns in Germany found themselves in that situation. A supermarket group has come to the rescue, though, and is now serving those customers with a mobile grocery store. A bus stocked with about 950 items visits 23 different communities along a 600-kilometer route, comes once a week. Now, these are small communities of less than 1,000 people, places that simply don't have enough folks to support a permanent store. The bus stays at each stop for about 90 minutes. Inside are dry goods. Fresh fruits and vegetables are displayed on the street outside. Pricing is the same as in supermarkets. The grocery chain says it will continue offering the service until the end of 2025 before deciding whether to expand it. Several other communities have expressed an interest in being added to the route. Coal picking, an illegal, tough, and dangerous way to make a living in India's Jharkhand state. But about 100,000 people are still risking their lives to do it. The coal fields they scavenge this fuel from are on fire. Now, these underground fires rage in pockets of the open pit mines that are spread out over an area of about 300 square kilometers. They've been burning for more than 100 years, believed to have been sparked by a mine accident back in 1916. And since then, the fires have created sinkholes that swallow up people and homes. Coal pickers and activists say hundreds of people have died over the years. But the pickers still brave the dangers, the risk of dying in the fires and from breathing the polluted air, because they say that's the only way they can support themselves. The government has tried to relocate people, but many resist, saying they will lose their livelihood. In China, housing in some cities is so expensive, people are resorting to living in recreational vehicles. Rents can take up to 49% of a person's income, and it's even worse for people buying a home. As an alternative, people are buying vans and renovating them. Those with more money opt for a well-appointed RV to live in. Now, this van here has most of the comforts of home, even an electric piano. For single people or couples with no kids, it's an affordable solution. Some say it has cut their living expenses by 75%, and they say that gives them the chance to save up for a down payment to later buy a home. I'll be back in 7 days, and until then, I wish you all peace, joy, and happiness in the ensuing week. ThomasILikness, Correspondent at Large, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Now let's head over to Papua New Guinea as the country gets ready for a state visit by French President Emmanuel Macron. Here's Echo Hortaleza Canyola on Oceania at a Glance.
Prime Minister James Marape confirms that French President Emmanuel Macron will arrive on July 28. This for a one-day bilateral meeting that will further solidify the growing cooperation and shared goals between the two nations. The event will commence at the APEC House, Port Moresby. Through a meeting with France's Special Advisor for Asia and Pacific, Mr. Walid Fouquiu, this state visit becomes possible. President Macron is scheduled to arrive in the morning at the Jackson's International Airport and will depart late afternoon. Echo Hortaleza Quinola, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
And in other news, as the world struggles with finances, high school students in Corpus Christi, Texas get very timely training on how to manage their money to prepare better for the future. Jessica Isidro on Learning Curve.
They say the children are the future, and what better way to prepare them for adulthood than by teaching them how to manage money wisely. Here in Corpus Christi, Texas, Local banks and community groups have come together to give high school students a head start on managing their finances.
A leadership Corpus Christi group came up with Finance 101, and when we started looking at it, one of our board members suggested that we get in touch with last year's committee. And with the help of quite a few volunteers from different parts of the community, we were able to bring together students to learn more about what they need to know in financial literacy to be successful once they graduate from high school.
Our volunteers are in the classroom from Raleigh Credit Union and Coast Life Credit Union, and so these are all financial professionals who are teaching the junior achievement curriculum. The financial fitness of our young adults is really important, and it's something that we don't always teach well in the public school system. So we're trying to supplement what they're learning either at home or through the school system and help them avoid making a lot of the mistakes that we made when we were younger.
Sometimes it can be overwhelming, and our job over at Del Mar College, when we talk to prospective students, is just to kind of make it easier for them to understand, like financial aid, scholarships, or maybe benefits they may be entitled to because their parents serve in the military or they have siblings or whoever, that help them pay for school. As long as you understand how these finances work, how the scholarships work, how it applies to your account, that really makes your life a little bit easier down the road as far as make sure you don't have to struggle.
All of us today will be giving away 5 $1,000 scholarships given away by Raleigh Credit Union, and 2 $500 scholarships will be given away by Driscoll Health Plan. So together we'll actually be contributing $6,000 in scholarships today for all student participants for Finance 101.
The Finance 101 Teen Seminar is a product of Leadership Corpus Christi Class 50. My small committee last year put the project on, and we wanted to continue the tradition. So we partnered with Junior Achievement this year, this curriculum that's very engaging, it's very interactive, and this program actually can be done any time of year. Junior Achievement just needs more adult volunteers to get trained in the curriculum and then go right into the classroom. And we are looking for partners for next year to bring the Finance 101 Teen Seminar, make it bigger and better, and grow it even more to reach all students in all the high schools, as well as college students that are wanting to learn more about their financial literacy.
Today I went to Finance 101. Influential thing I learned today was a secured credit card. I didn't know that was a thing. So basically they told me about how I could put money into it, and so it builds my credit, but it's not gonna put me in like crippling debt. And I really learned about how to do like a proper savings account and how to save your money and make it to where you can still live comfortably and have fun without not doing anything.
This is my daughter. Her name's Alea Branch. She's 8 years old, and she came with us today on this journey just because she was curious about what's finances, what is financial literacy. And we sat in some of the classes. She was able to listen to some of the conversations of budgeting. I think we're trying to set a foundation for her about money and what budgeting and money means.
In Corpus Christi, Texas, Jessica Isidro Lopez, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Before we let you go, here's our photo of the week. This is the beautiful facade of Cafe Central in Vienna, Austria. Cafe Central is known as the long-standing venue for Viennese cuisine with famous historic links. The building, Palais Ferstel, dates back to the mid-19th century. It once housed the Vienna Stock Exchange and the National Bank. Thank you, Geoffrey Nolasco, for that photo, and thank you all for joining us again. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Eagle News Live. I am EJayGonzales. We live in extraordinary times. Stay happy and healthy, everyone.